friends, I hope you are doing fine. Today, I come up with a hands-on step-by-step exercise to explore serverless, AWS S3, AWS Lambda, CloudWatch, etc. etc. To do that, I have a small hands-on to create image thumbnail on the fly using AWS Serverless. Let's say you have a S3 bucket. You allow users to upload files or users upload your files to this bucket. This bucket has event. That event will trigger a Lambda function to process the image, to manipulate the image and put it in another bucket. Exciting, right? Let's get started. Now, let us see how to set up Amazon S3 to trigger a Lambda function to create thumbnail, small, cute thumbnail image. Let us focus on the architecture of this solution. Let's say you have a source bucket. This time we will upload files from the management console, but we can set up this bucket to receive upload from the application. This is a source bucket. As soon as you put the data or file into this bucket, this will trigger a Lambda. This Lambda will have necessary permissions to read the file from this bucket, also to do some processing, Lambda processing, create the thumbnail. This Lambda function will put the finished product, finished image, thumbnail image into another bucket, destination bucket. So this is the whole flow. This is the architecture of this today's exercise. The prerequisite for this hands-on demo, if you want to follow along, you must have AWS CLI to be configured in your workstation. And second, you need to have Node.js installed, code editor. For me, I am going to use VS Code. Let us go through list of required AWS resources or configuration for this exercise. First of all, we need to create source S3 bucket. This is where we have to put all our uploads, big image files. The application will send images to this bucket, source S3 bucket. Then we'll go and create another bucket. This is the bucket which will carry the thumbnail. So we can say this is a destination S3 bucket to store thumbnail images. Third, I am also going to create another bucket. This is just to keep the Lambda function because I am going to push the Lambda code from my AWS CLI. So to keep the code artifacts, I have created one more bucket. And four, I will be creating the policy, necessary policy. I will attach those policy to a role for the Lambda because Lambda should have a permission to read from the S3 bucket, get object, and also it needs to put object to another bucket. Also, Lambda will create some logs in the CloudWatch. So I need to set up the policy role for Lambda. Fourth one, I have to create a Lambda function and set up the configuration, the runtime, etc., memory and all. And five, I need to assign this Lambda trigger from the source bucket. This way, I have to connect the source bucket with this Lambda, so that as soon as I put the object into the source bucket, this Lambda will be triggered. Okay, now I am in the AWS management console. Here, where I am going to create AWS resources. First of all, I am going to create S3 buckets. I need to create a couple of buckets. So I will go and select S3 service, click S3, and there is option here to create bucket. Now I am going to create my source bucket. So here I will be putting my source bucket name. So my source bucket name I will call Studio. I am just naming it like Studio Source Bucket. Okay. I will go with the default, all default option. I will not go and change anything else, I am fine with the existing settings. So I am just putting the name only. I create bucket. Bucket name will not accept underscore, so that I will put hyphen Alright, create bucket. Now I have created studio source bucket. I'll create destination bucket, studio destination bucket, studio destination bucket. Again, I go with the default options. I require one more bucket to receive the code artifacts from CLI. So I create studio BKT 7, let's say. Alright, so I have created 3 buckets successfully. Now let me go and create other resources. Now let us go and create policy role for AWS Lambda, because Lambda require necessary permission to do the image processing and other CloudWatch logs. So let us go and create the policy role now. So I am in the search box of the AWS Management Console. I am searching the IAM service. Go to the IAM service and you will find a policy option under the access management. Click policy. Here you will find option to create policy. Now we will go and create policy. Here select a service. From the service drop down, select S3. From the S3, from the source bucket, we need to get object. So we need to read object. Okay? So there is one API method, get object. This get object permission needs to be given to Lambda. So select S3 and read, under the read get object. So after you set get object for this source bucket, read permission, then after you set get object for this source bucket, read permission, then scroll down. Here you have to give a specific resource. In AWS, we have to make sure to give the least privilege access. So we have to mention exactly from which bucket this AWS Lambda needs to read. So click here to add ARN. Before to add ARN, come here and copy the bucket name. Source bucket name. This is a source bucket. I browse to source bucket. Under the permissions, I have the information about this bucket. I have the ARN and bucket name. So come here to add ARN. Click here and you will have a pop-up screen to mention those information. Under the resource bucket name, paste the bucket name and copy the ARN of this bucket, unique name of this bucket. Copy the ARN and paste it under the resource ARN. Resource object. The Lambda can read any object, so can just select this any object name. That's fine. We can let the Lambda read any object from the source bucket. Click here to add ARN. Now add ARN to restrict access. We have already set to read from this bucket only. Okay. Then we need to add another permission, more permission. Again, we need to select S3 bucket. S3 bucket, but this time we need to write, the Lambda need to write to the destination bucket. So select the S3 option service again and come here to write permission. This time look for put object API. Select the put object. Under the permission management, we need to again give it to the specific ARN. Come to the buckets, select destination bucket, go to the properties where you will find the bucket name, copy the bucket name and add ARN. Copy the bucket name. This is the ARN. Make sure you copy the same bucket ARN. Again, any object name. Select any object name. So this is the put object permission. Add ARN. So we have added So far we have added two permissions. One get object, one put object. We still need to give more permission because Lambda will write logs to CloudWatch. So let us go and give more permission. But this time I am going to select CloudWatch logs. This log. Here I have to give write permission to give permission to create log group, create log stream, because it will create a log group. Under the log group it will create log stream, and again it will put object, it will create log, put log events. So put log events, create log group, create log stream, put log events. Select, we don't need to mention any specific ARN, that's fine. Any in this account, this is fine. Log group, log stream, that's fine, perfectly fine. Create, select, next. Now we have done with adding three permissions. Policy contains three permissions: S3 get object, S3 put object, and CloudWatch logs. Click next. Give nice name for this policy. I'm going to create Studio 7 policy for Lambda Image Resize. I can put any description, but this is the name for this policy, Studio 7 policy. Having to write the CloudWatch logs and read and write for S3 bucket. I'm fine, perfectly fine with it, and create policy. Create policy. The policy has been created. Now we have to create a role for a Lambda. Okay, so under the same access management menu option, select a role. Here you create a new role and keep AWS service as a trusted entity type. Case is for Lambda. You are going to create the role for a Lambda. So select use case a Lambda and click next. It is asking to add permissions, policies. We have created policy, and we have created policy already. So we have to select the policy Studio 7, this policy, customer managed policy. So I have selected the previously created policy for this permission and click next and give nice name Studio 7 Image Resize Lambda Image Resizer. This is the role name I am giving for this role, created role. Create, click to create role. A role has been created successfully. Now I am going to create a Lambda function and assign this role to this Lambda function. On the search bar, Lambda, search Lambda, create Lambda, click Lambda. Okay, now you are in the Lambda console, create function. There are various options: author from scratch, blueprint, container image. We are going to create from the scratch, so keep the first option, and function name. So I am just giving image manipulator. I am just giving the name image manipulator as a function name. The runtime is Node.js. I am going to use Node.js, runtime 20. The image function name is image manipulator. The permission, change the default execution role. Yes, I want to change the default execution role because I have created separate role for it. Select this one, create a role with the basic Lambda functions. No, select use an existing role. Click the second option, use an existing role, and select the existing role, the one which we created, Studio 7 Lambda Image Resizer. And advanced setting, no need, just click to create function. Now the function has been created successfully. Now this function comes with default code snippet. Now anyway we are going to push this code from our console, from our CLI. Let us go and do some more things in this configuration. Click configuration. This function comes with general settings. Timeout in 3 seconds. This has 128 MB memory. For this exercise, I am going to give some nice configuration so that my sample will work without any issue. So I am going to click edit. I might require 1 GB of memory, for example. Okay, I am just thinking I can put 1 GB, and the timeout I am going to put like 10 minutes, because after 10 minutes my function can time out. So I put 10 minutes. I am letting this Lambda use 10 minutes. That's fine. Rest of the settings are fine. Click next, save. That's it. If you scroll to the permission, you can notice that this Lambda is using the role which we created. As a part of configuration of this Lambda function, I am going to set up environment variable. I am going to pass a variable for destination bucket as an environment variable, so that from the application this Lambda function will detect the target bucket dynamically. So environment variable, select environment variable, click edit. You will get option to add environment variable. I'm going to write a key, dest bkt path. After you mention the destination bucket key as a dest underscore bucket underscore path, put the value of the destination bucket. In my case, this is the destination bucket, studio destination bucket. I have assigned this value as for this key and click save. Now our environment variable has set with the destination bucket. If you notice here, this function need to have a trigger from S3 bucket. Since we are letting the S3 bucket to trigger asynchronously to call this Lambda function, we need to add a trigger. There is a button here to add trigger. Click here, the button, and select S3 service. Click S3 bucket and choose your bucket. Our case, we have to select studio bucket, studio source bucket. The default options are fine. We'll go with default option. At the scroll down and check this button, I acknowledge. Check this button and click add. That's it. Now our Lambda function has been added with a trigger, S3 trigger. If you come to the triggers section, you will notice that this has been added. If you expand the details, you will find all the details. So this S3 bucket can push the events. If there is any upload happened, this will call this Lambda function asynchronously. As you can see, our Lambda function has a trigger enabled with S3 source bucket, and you can see the list of triggers and details, the bucket name, get object. As soon as any object uploaded, get object created, it will trigger this Lambda function. Now this Lambda function currently will not do anything, because we still not uploaded the code that required to do the image manipulation. For this exercise, we will be using the JavaScript library JIMP. So we will use this JIMP in this Lambda function to do the image manipulation. Let us go to our workstation to set up the project, create this Lambda function, upload our code to this Lambda function. Now let us create our project, write some code so that we can push this code to our newly created Lambda function. Under my project directory, I am creating a folder so that I can create my files inside it. So select folder, create folder, I'm just naming it Lambda image manipulator. This is my folder. Right click from the git bash. I'm just typing code dot so that it will be opened in my VS Code. This is my fresh folder, fresh directory. There's nothing in it. Now I'm going to create a file, index.js. I need to initialize this with npm so that I can write some npm command. I'm opening the terminal, npm init -y to accept the default configurations. So I have been gifted with the package.json file. The development, I am going to copy some code on the index.js file, and then let me walk you through this code. I pasted some code on the index.js file. So first 2 lines. I have installed AWS SDK and JIMP. I have created references for these packages, and here I am referring the AWS S3 object. I am going to pass the destination bucket as an environment variable. So I am referring it like process.env.dest path bucket path. This is the variable. I set it in the Lambda function as an environment variable. I am referring this value here, dest bucket. I have a small async function, Image Resize. It will receive the data, image. From the buffer, it will use a JIMP to read and return this bucket after resizing it. So 200 by 200. This is resizing the image, incoming image, and returning. Once awaited, then it will return this small utility function, do this work. And our handler. So a handler is a asynchronous event from the incoming S3 objects. So to understand this event.records.map, we need to go to the console to see Lambda. If you go to the Lambda image manipulator, go to the test to inspect the incoming data, test event. For example, on the event type, but we'll see S3 put. S3 put, select S3 put because we are going to put object in S3 source bucket. If you notice the records, if you notice the payload of this JSON, it comes with the records. It comes with starting with records. Then if you notice the code records.map, then records.s3 bucket name. Records.s3, you will see a records under the records s3, and you will find a bucket.name records. So multiple objects can be inserted in one time. So it's a collection. So under the records you will find each s3, and each s3 you will find each bucket and name. So this is how the code has been manipulating, receiving the objects from this loop. So event.records.map, we are using the map operator to process it, each record, and we are reading the bucket name and the key. Object key also be read from here. You will notice key, test this key. So this is a code snippet available in Lambda for any template. Now our case, we are processing S3 put event. So we are going to read the objects keys from this way only, and we are constructing a params bucket name and key name. So the bucket is the incoming bucket and the file name is the incoming file name, and we constructed the param object, and we are going to call S3 get object API. S3 get object. So from here the Lambda is reading the incoming bucket by providing the bucket name and the key name. Here we get the object. The image, the uploaded image will be here. Here, now we have created a simple utility Image Resize. We are going to pass input data that body of the content will be passed here. So the small utility will use JIMP to read this bucket and return, resize it. Once resizing done, it will return to this line, image. Here we are constructing this line will be used to get this image as a buffer. The resized buffer is buffer from this object. img from the img we are getting the buffer, img buffer, and we are assigned to the another variable. We are converting here as a buffer, and again we are constructing asset for a target bucket. The destination bucket we set it in the environment variable, the test bucket, and target file name we put the same name, and then we have to provide the body. The resized buffer is the body of the destination bucket. The content type img jpeg. Finally, we are using the s3.put object method, providing the params object to it and its promise and wait for it. So it will put. Finally, we will wait for all promise to be resolved. My file ops, everything will be has been assigned to this variable. Once everything is resolved, we are logging that in the console, CloudWatch console, done. This is the code. Now the code has been done. Okay, so far we went through the code written in index.js file, and if you can go to browse to the package.json, I'll copy one code where I'm adding the dependencies. I require AWS SDK, this version, and JIMP JavaScript image manipulation library, JIMP, this version. After copying it, I am saving package.json. Then I am going to execute some command. I need to install these two packages along with the core node modules. In order to do that, I will be typing npm install, enter. Let us wait for the packages to be installed. Installation is completed. It has been added 119 packages along with SDK, AWS SDK, and JIMP. Right. Now we have to package this code and make it as a zip file so that we can take it to S3 bucket. Right click on this index.js file and reveal in File Explorer. Select everything, right click, compress to zip file. Compression is going on. Okay, the compressed package is ready. If you can see from the AWS code, you will see index.zip file is ready. Now I am going to take this file to S3 bucket so that I can publish for AWS Lambda. In order to do that, I will be executing some command AWS S3 copy, CP for copy, index.zip. This is the index.zip is the file I need to copy. The target is S3 bucket, S3 : / I need to put the bucket name. I can find the bucket name here. S3, go to S3. This is the bucket, Studio BKT7. Copy the bucket name. Come back to Visual Studio Code and paste it. Hit enter. Now this index.zip being transmitted to the S3 bucket. Now file upload has been completed. Now we can publish this file to AWS Lambda. So we can continue to code it in CLI. AWS Lambda update function code dash dash function dash name. Function name we need to provide. We can find the function name here, image manipulator. This is the function name. I'm copying the function name, pasting it here. Then another argument, we need to provide the S3 bucket name, slash dash 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 S3 dash bucket. Here I have to provide the bucket name. The bucket name is here. This is the bucket name. Then I need to provide the key, dash dash S3 dash key. That is nothing but index.zip. We pushed index.zip. That's the key name. We had to provide the index.zip. Then finally, we need to provide the last argument, dash dash publish. So it's AWS Lambda update function code. Function name is image manipulator. Code artifacts in this bucket studio bucket 7. We are mentioning the source bucket and key index.zip dash dash publish will push the code to the Lambda function. Hit enter. Done. The files which are packaged in our code with our code has been pushed to the Lambda function already. Now let's go to the AWS console and open S3. Browse your source bucket. This is the source bucket. Now we can test our function. This is the source bucket. Open, upload, add file. You can find your own file, any file, JPEG file. Select this JPEG file and open. Add. Click to upload. File is being transmitted. Upload is succeeded. Close. Open the bucket. Check the destination bucket. The destination bucket. Let's wait for the destination bucket. Now you can see the destination bucket. New file has been added. Click here and click here to view this file. Now this application, the Lambda has created nice cute thumbnail. Check the original file. Original file is big. You can check. It's a big file. Thumbnail is small. It has created small thumbnail here. That's it. Let us go to the CloudWatch. Click CloudWatch. Because this Lambda might have put some logs in there. Click log groups. Under the log groups, you will find image manipulator log group in the name of Lambda function. Under this, you will find log streams. You will find a log stream here. Expand it. You will find a log info done. If you remember in our code, once a task been completed, we are logging to the console done. The same text has been added in the console. Info done. So how was it? I hope you enjoyed this hands-on. I will see you next time with another interesting AWS topic. Until then, see ya. Bye.